We're going to be joining Professor Jonathan Adeyemi Aremu virtually. He's an economist, an academic, and an international trade expert. Now, Professor Aremu is also a distinguished economist with 4 decades of experience in economic policy development, trade negotiation, and regional integration. As a consultant to prominent organizations such as ECOWAS, the African Union, and the UNCTAD, he has played a pivotal role in shaping investment frameworks and economic strategies across Africa. Now, having read out part of his profile and portfolio, let's see if our connection is stable to have Professor Jonathan Adeyemi Aremu join us. Hello, Prof. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, sir. Thanks for asking. Compliments of the season.
Same to you, sir.
Now, Prof, before we begin to project the outlooks going into the year 2025, I'd like your honest opinion, especially off the back of what resounds to be a common decimal amongst the opinion of Nigerians on how hard the year 2024 has been, occasioned by certain policies of the government. And let's get your honest opinion on the state of things in Nigeria currently.
Thank you very much. And once again, thank you, viewers, for this wonderful opportunity to be with you. Yes, the economy has not been very good with respect to the welfare of the people in Nigeria. And that is understandable. Understandable in the sense that there have been quite some sort of serious mismanagement in the past. And therefore, to restructure the economy will take some time. And therefore, let me just praise President Tinubu for taking courage to be able to say that he wants to restructure Nigeria economy. And restructuring is not something easy. Restructuring applies that or implies that you are going to reduce certain consumption if necessary. And then you are going to things will be a little bit tough when restructuring. It's a sort of national structural adjustment program, not imposed by by IMF, but imposed on ourselves so that we can have a sustainable future. That is to say that the future generation will not we have something to consume later on. Not that we consume everything and then there's nothing for the future generation. And that's the concept of sustainable development. So if this government is bold enough to do that, I congratulate them and I've said that they have to continue, particularly with respect to health subsidy. As an economist, I don't support subsidy. No, because subsidy uh, actually doesn't all go well in macroeconomic theory. That is to say that there's individual consumption function. But when you now actually divert my consumption as a sort of subsidy, my function, particularly my indifference curve, the different combination of what I wanted to eat will be distorted. Let me explain this way. That is to say, if the money you are using to subsidize fuel is given to me, will I actually use it for fuel? I will not. I will use for other preferences that will give me better satisfaction. And that is how much we have thwarted the consumption function and in different the combination of consumption of Nigeria over the years as sort of a subsidy. People will not travel if the oil is if fuel is very expensive. But because fuel is very cheap, you make them to travel. Is traveling the next thing? No. So I congratulate the president for that. But a lot still have to be done in the Nigerian economy. The
Now,
issue of
talking about
yes,
the role of Bretton Woods institutions, much like you mentioned the IMF. The IMF, in some perspectives, have been blamed for the speed in which the current administration took certain decisions, owing to the fact that they recommended the removal of fuel subsidies in the petroleum sector. They have also recommended the removal of electricity subsidies. But persons say Nigeria needs more homegrown solutions other than relying solely on recommendations from the IMF and World Bank. Prof, I don't know what your objection to this is, or do you agree that those recommendations are enough to get Nigeria on track for the economy we all hope for?
well, these global economic governance institutions, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, they are for collective destiny of the entire world. They are not to punish any country. if certain macroeconomic indices of the economy is not going the way it should, they have the right to be able to say, this is how it should go. You see, the citizens, the people that are working in IMF, World Bank, and WTO, they did not drop from heaven. They are members of our national economy. We have Nigeria in IMF, we have Nigeria in World Bank, we have Nigeria in World Trade Organization. In fact, the Director General of World Trade Organization is a Nigerian. Therefore, with the picture of the economic indices they are saying, if they say this is the recommendation you have to follow, yes, that may be a very good recommendation. But you come back home, you look at this recommendation. Is that the true position of your economy? What are some of the things you need to put right domestically for you to follow this? No matter the World Bank and IMF recommendation, if you continue in corruption, if you continue in all these fraudulent practices, the economy will not take the right shape. That is it. So, I mean, you cannot say World Bank and IMF are wrong. They said that we should remove fuel subsidy. I mean, look at it under structural adjustment program of IMF, even in those days of when we have SFEM, second tier foreign exchange system. I was in Central Bank Research Department that time. Oh, people say that this is a wrong policy. I say it is not wrong. The World Bank look at your indices and discover that if you don't actually do this, you will not be okay. All right, take for instance Nigeria economy now. IMF and World Bank recommended you have to do this, do it one. Yes, but at the same time, in your domestic economy, you have to make sure that infrastructures are working right so that your book can produce. Even God, before he can actually say, let there be this, let there be that, he said, let there be light. When there is no infrastructure like light, manufacturer will not be able to do anything. But IMF will not come and make your life for you. No. These are basic national programs that an economy must provide for itself. So these are the issues. People blaming IMF, they are just, it's a waste of time to me. I've worked with Central Bank of Nigeria over the year before I retired. I retired in 1992 as an acting assistant director of research. When they come, we give them figures that we see. Take for instance in 1991 or 92, we have a program with World Bank, and we carried our statistics to World Bank for financial programming. When we got there, we showed them our export. The World Bank will say, this your figure is not correct. We were surprised. Then the man said that it's not correct because you calculated your export figure based on what you exported. But we in IMF, we see your export figure by taking all the imports coming from Nigeria. And all the imports coming from Nigeria were higher than the one you are giving us, which means a lot of goods leave Nigeria without being recorded. Is that the fault of IMF? These are issues that we need to take home and then try to make sure our economy is doing right before we blame international governance economic institutions. We need to do things right.
Now, getting things right, Prof, has also touched on some important issues. I'd like for us to pick them one after the other. Citing an example, following experience working with the central bank and in interaction with IMF, Nigerians are also continually critical about the data and statistics as published by the National Bureau of Statistics. One, as it regards our level of unemployment. That particular figure, and also with the GDP growth recorded in 2024, the service sector has been credited for improving this growth. What's your take on the credibility of the NBS statistics in line with the current economic realities?
Well, let me just let you say this, and then let me say this. NBS has been given the statutory power to give us our statistics. We don't need to doubt what they are doing. If anybody have anything to be able to assist them, why not? There was a time when we were working on the National Development Plan, this current one, and I happened to be one of the coordinators. I needed statistics on trading services. They don't have it. And I say, okay, we are going to make use of what we have now, but we need to develop trade in services as well as trade in goods we are having. So if anybody know anything to be able to assist them, why not? But to be able to be blaming them that their statistics are wrong, I don't think that's the best thing. On the unemployment, if you discover they've not captured certain things they need to capture, please come out and let them know. It's not a court. They are ready to listen to the advice. But I think it's right that we have a National Bureau of Statistics for a better harmonization and to make sure we are getting this statistics from a source that is credible. I think MBS is credible. Let us give them the support. That's what I can say. If anybody wanted to assist them to make sure that their data which they are giving us need to be harmonized, need to be better developable, let the person say it out.
Now,
But I think they are doing the best. I was in a meeting in which, sometimes ago, in which we are now trying to look at trading services of the entire African country because I'm a consultant in ECOWAS. We are looking at all the countries in ECOWAS. And our people are there. And the members of MBS, among other members of the ECOWAS country, they were making useful contributions. So I did not see them as not doing their job. They have been doing very well.
But I like the way you put it. If there are rooms for improvement, you're calling for more hands to assist the NBS. Particularly, one of the conversations we had here in the studio that elicited some of these reactions were the statistics as published for the current inflationary rates, both for food inflation and inflation as it were. With the calculations in the market, say an item has not increased in price, which if you calculate is over 100%. But when you look at it from the NBS statistics, the inflation is quoted as being 34, 35, 36 thereabouts. But in terms of the actual price in the market, it seems it is quite higher. The role of CBN has been called into question. Many are saying the CBN can help with the way it approaches its MPR hike monthly. Prof, help us with your experience understand how best the CBN can intervene.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for the memory lane. I happen to work in Central Bank of Nigeria, and when I joined the Central Bank in 1980, we used to go out to be able to look at all these staple food and other items to calculate inflation rate. There is a general statistics office that calculates inflation in Central Bank of Nigeria at those times. And we do that twice in a month. And we put our data across to the governor of Central Bank, which is used in his own analysis. But with MBS coming up as a central institution, CBN does not need to do that again. What we did, and particularly my own assignment, monitoring foreign investment in Nigeria. With MBS, they are to monitor foreign investment in Nigeria. At that particular time, we were monitoring the investment flow based on 5 components. That is, the profit the foreign investor generated that they are not sending abroad, the fresh inflow, the trade and suppliers credit, other foreign liabilities and liability to head office. And we were using this component to be able to calculate it. But with MBS, CBN is to turn all these statistical functions to be MBS to actually be doing the work. Now, as you rightly said, as MBS be doing it, maybe I've not been able to see that clearly. But that is an area, just as you suggested, that central bank will be able to help in this area. For me, I see that calculation of investment flow as very important, but it has not been attended to clearly. These are the kind of help and assistance I was talking about. If anybody is aware of anything to assist MBS, why not? But we cannot say that we discredit their information. I will not agree.
All right, let's still stay with the CBN, especially with the fact that it is Nigeria's apex bank. And when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office, he said that he envisioned a thorough house cleaning for the CBN. We've also seen some adjustments in the way the CBN is running its activities. A lot of the Emefiele Gate issues are still lingering with us. The cash policy that saw the Naira redesign has also left many Nigerians losing faith with the banks following the cash crunch. The CBN in recent time has issued directives on minimal withdrawals over the counter, ATMs ought to be working, but we see a thriving POS operation in Nigeria. Prof, in your best practice, how does the CBN approach the issues with transitioning Nigeria to a cashless society and also making sure that they mop up liquidity without affecting the informal market sector?
Thank you. These are multiple questions that demand a lot of thesis to answer. I'll just say some few things. Number one is that when the central bank was giving away substantial amounts of money in terms of waste and means advances, and for some of us, we were raising our eyebrow that is wrong. The president of the nation was contacted, and he said that he was aware. Even in redesigning, he said he's aware.
Sorry, sir. Just sorry to cut you. Which of the presidents? The outgone President Muhammadu Buhari or the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Muhammadu Buhari.
Okay, sir. Thank you. You can go on, sir.
Muhammadu Buhari. The incoming president, no. But you see, the issue is this. The separation of central bank to make it relatively independent is a global phenomenon. But at the same time, it cannot totally detach itself from the national economy. But that kind of separation of power is based, that autonomy is based on the fact that a central bank must know what it's doing very well. A situation in which the governor of CBN continue giving waste and means advances beyond the legal limit, beyond the power of central bank, and then it's put to question, he cannot do it, is extremely dangerous to the economy. And that is what we are still paying a lot of crisis for now. Because up till now, we have not been able to pay that money and the entire economy is in debt. And that's one of the essence for which we need to have a coordinating minister. He may not have to perform the role of central bank for central bank, but at the same time, as a coordinating minister, his power with respect to policy function, regulatory function, and transnational function to actually nosedive into some of the activities and excesses that can be discovered in any sector of the economy and try to make a recommendation to put it right or send a signal to the relevant agency to do what is right. But I've not even seen that one being done under a coordinated ministry. So these have to be stepped up. When we are looking into different areas with respect to fiscal policy, budgetary management, and quite a lot of things, the Federal Ministry of Finance have a very critical role. Let me say this, that even this kind of single window that some of us actually recommended that that's a very good policy. Why should it be with FIRS and not with Federal Ministry of Finance? These are the things. Because the Federal Ministry of Finance is coordinating. It should be in touch. It should have a lens with which to see the economy at a glance. What gives Okonjo-Iweala that opportunity to get some solution, particular to the NAPU tanks, that allow to actually reduce our debt level, is that coordination opportunity. And that is why the current government says that a coordinating minister will be very important. And that kind of minister should actually look at the entire economy as its own constituency. And even if as much as 30 trillion in terms of waste and means, and the Minister of Finance is not aware, and it becomes a debt to the country. Is that good?
Not good at all.
So these are the things that we need to actually check and make sure they are right as we go into 2025.
Now, in credit to the current administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that he has not explored the use of ways and means in running the country in the past 18 months. But yes, the challenge here now is for the common Nigerian.
The previous debt is still there.
It is indeed.
It's still there. So, or have you heard that they have finished paying? I'm not aware.
Not at all.
Okay, so why should we actually use it?
Now, for the common Nigerian who is affected mostly by the policies of government with where we envision the country to be economically, the challenge has also been on the decision to float the naira, removing the exchange rate cap. We've seen some controlled measures with BDC operators being sold to at a certain rate, but yet we find the naira struggling to keep up with the dollar. On the average, it is now over 1,565 naira to a dollar. Do you support this decision to remove the exchange rate cap? And if yes,
Now,
will we see any reversal in this?
now you see, what countries do is to manage the float. Managing of float is that at any time you discover a problem, you bring a solution. And that's why we have monetary instruments like open market operation. When you discover certain things are happening, you can use OMO to be able to actually cushion the effect. So you manage the float, not throwing the economy, oh, Naira, manage yourself in the global market. No. Our economy has not actually developed to that a modern financial system to actually give you to the demand and supply within the global system, particularly with exchange rate. But at the same time, a fixed exchange rate has never worked. And that is actually what led us to SFEM in early 1980s. And we have to approach the IMF. So I think that a mandate float is very important. The way where we are right now, in which naira is exchanging for 1,600 and something or so, is as a result of both monetary and fiscal problems. Number one, from the fiscal side, how have we managed the expenditures of the government and make it to be productive? From the monetary side, we just make mention of ways and means advances that have been abused over the years. So if we can actually put things in order and restructure the economy to be able to move away from these excesses, we shall be better off.
And now, Prof, our dollar reserve has also been questioned. Credit to the administration. Some of the FX trapped from the aviation industry have been repatriated. But there were questions at some point early in the year as to, is Nigeria broke? And where does our foreign reserve actually stand? In terms of reviewing this, would also remember that allegations were leveled against the CBN that it was using part of the reserves to fight for the naira. Are those allegations anything to go by? And does the country necessarily need to make public its reserves in order to build investors' confidence?
Well, the last question first. Yes, people need to know the health, the financial health of your country to be able to actually invest or go away. So you don't keep that secret. It's not necessary. So that is settled. So CBN doesn't have to actually, we won't allow anybody to know where we are. No, that is not the situation. But let me say this one, which is extremely annoying. When last have you seen the annual report of CBN? So, and that is not a good development. As a pensioner from Central Bank, when I was in research department, I'm one of those people that actually work on Chapter 8. That is the operational activity of CBN. This one gives signals to the next year. And our director of research and also, and the one that follows, okay, up to Dr. Ojo, they make sure that you make this report available so that Nigerians can know, so that level of speculation will be low. But when Governor Emefiele came, we don't know actually what happened. I mean, we are not seeing all those reports again. So those reports are enough as signals, as public information, not keeping things secret. They will allow the foreign investor and domestic investor to be able to monitor what is going on in the system. These are areas that I think that the current government is trying to actually revive and put in order. And that is the basis for the restructuring they are talking about. But the issue is that has to be fast enough to be able to make sure that the national and international confidence to be able to make sure Nigeria is among the committee of nations that are doing well, we need to put them in place.
Well, in keeping with other aspects of our economy, let's now talk about the 2025 budget. Because whilst we have listed issues that improvements can be made upon following some key indices in 2024, in planning for 2025, many have called our budgets outrightly overambitious. And my question is very straight. Do you think that the 2025 budget is overambitious?
Well, I'm very sorry. I've not looked at that statistic. We are in a holiday time, and I've not been able to look at that side, so I may not be able to look at an over-ambitious or under-ambitious budget now. But let me say this one, that those people that are saying is an over-ambitious budget, let them prove it and then we know,
So,
right?
some of the points that they have pointed to,
Yeah,
I'll mention them and I'll ask your perspective. They've talked
okay.
about our crude oil production, the shortfalls, and the challenges with meeting the OPEC quota, vis-a-vis the issues of oil theft in the Niger Delta region, and the lack of accountability in how much the country produces on a daily basis. With these concerns in view, owing to the fact that this would be the main funding for the budget, do you think that they have some points of concern?
Well, they may have concern because that is why I say that as much as possible, the issue of corruption, effective management or whatever actually where we are deriving our wealth from have to be done quite well, right? If people don't have confidence in this, and then they still see corruption going on, and then you are now budgeting on it, they have the right to be able to lay that claim, right? So I will not say they are wrong, but I'm only saying that I don't have the appropriate indices to be able to actually say it is over ambitious or it is under ambitious. And I will not claim to be able to know that until I have the appropriate data. But the issue is this. I'm aware that some countries that are producing oil like us, if a pint of oil is missing, they can account for it. What is delaying us from actually having an opportunity to be able to account for all this, and oil theft is still continue? Who are those people doing this? We need substantial transparency in this country. It's compulsory because the welfare of the people is not there. Again, look at people. People are running for food, and a lot of people die. They are actually hungry. That's why there is no orderliness. This can't continue. We need to sit down, and those people that are in corrupt practices in one way or the other, some countries they shoot and kill them. But you see some people, when they charge them as corrupt, they go to court. From court, they grant them bail, they remove the bail, they go and stay in Kuje prison, they just stay there. And nobody is being punished. If we don't punish the offenders, particularly people holding public offices, this problem will continue. You are in charge of a particular activity, you are not doing it well for the country, it's going to affect the sustainable development of the country, and you are found wanting, you need to be punished.
Now, Prof, there's some case scenarios, especially with being able to even make findings and issue out punishments. We saw the situation between Dangote, the NMDPR, the debate over the quality of diesel they were churning out. We've seen summons and invitations given out by the National Assembly to certain agencies, and people flout them. They don't even turn up for the investigative hearings, and yet the IMF is still recommending that there should be a house cleaning of the NNPCL and such agencies. But persons are asking the question of the political willpower to indeed give out punishments, issue sanctions, or even be present for investigative hearings.
I support it. I support it because we cannot continue in this way in which some people are just stealing money. It's after they have stolen and people have died. It's after somebody in charge of hospital will not spend money there and there's no drug and people are dying. And quite a lot of other things are dilapidating in the country, and then they will now catch them that they stole so much billion, they now be resting in the prison. Only later on to say that they have been discharged. I think this thing should stop to be able to have confidence in the system. To me, we need to do things right. In China, when you are found with a lot of all these problems, they tie them, they kill them. Yeah, because the people that you deny them of welfare, they finally died as well. So why should you not go? So, to me, we need to be stiff in that of penalty. Stiff penalty have to be there. Else, they will call those of us that are recommending policies as those who doesn't know what they are doing. I'm privileged to work in Nigeria Economic Summit Group and a member of a National Economic Advisory Council. We see a lot of things which we don't feel good about. And we are only praying that the country will actually stand up and make sure things are done right. And some people are ready to do things right, even among those people working with the president. But we still have some who are thinking that they need to make the country among their corporate view or individual view. So I think these are the people we need to find out and make sure that appropriate punishment is given as they are committing the offense, they are caught. And then other people will stop. But if we don't stop it, then just as the past government said, that if we do not kill corruption, corruption can kill us.
Now, still in meeting our quota on our oil production, it's been linked to the state of our refineries. The Port Harcourt refinery has been somewhat revitalized, but we still have other more bond refineries. How best do you think that we can meet the projections with these refineries lagging behind on the promised dates for their turnaround?
Well, I'm not working in NNPC, but if actually the turning around the refinery, that's a very good development. One thing I want to recommend is this. Those refinery, are they the modern kind of refinery? Because if the turning around is to fabricate old kind of machinery which nobody is using in the entire global space, then that refinery is outdated. So I will not just say that they should uh, just put the refinery in order, but I will say that they should upgrade it and modernize it in a way that the efficiency in production and effectiveness of the activity will be felt. Efficiency in terms of minimizing costs and effectiveness in terms of getting what they want to get done at an appropriate time. So I congratulate NNPC, we are doing that well. But will they be able to continue? If the answer is yes, let them upgrade, not only turn around. Let them upgrade our refinery and make it modernized so that we are going to be using an upgraded refinery that can actually produce as efficiently as any other refinery in the world. Not the one in which all the refineries we are having, they are the old model. And we are the only one they are manufacturing that kind of a spare part for. I mean, that's not ideal.
Now, Prof, still talking about the 2025 budget, although you haven't had the time to go through the details of the budget and why it might have been termed overambitious. My final question before we move on to other items is on the borrowing to fund a huge part of the budget. It's been linked to capital projects that the government intends to provide for Nigerians. People have always said that there is no harm in borrowing, but is the purpose of what the amounts borrowed are used for? Are you satisfied following 18 months with the amounts that have come in so far and what they've been used for?
Well, let me say this, that there is nothing wrong in borrowing, right? When
That's
you
correct.
borrow to finance a capital project, that will generate streams of other opportunities. That is called productive borrowing, right? But when you borrow for consumption, that is a dead weight borrowing. You borrow to consume. You borrow to be able to satisfy the current consumption. That means the future people will be paying for what you are consuming now. So a borrowing that is not touched to increasing productivity of the country from now onward is not a good borrowing. If we are borrowing for infrastructural development and is used in that particular area, there is nothing actually wrong in that. But borrowing for current consumption is not a good borrowing. So we need to separate them. Okay? Because one can lead to other streams of income coming later in so many years to come. The other one you borrow and it's dead weight. That means it becomes a weight on the economy. So that's why we have productive borrowing and dead weight borrowing. A productive borrowing is a good one. A dead weight one is not good. Therefore, government should be able to decide when borrowing, is it productive borrowing or is it dead weight? If it is dead weight, let them stay away from it and look at internal sources of generating revenue.
When we talk
When is
about
it?
these internal sources of generating revenue, Prof, it's quite saddening to see the reports that more than 55% of states in Nigeria have issues with their IGR and largely depend on the federal government for allocations. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his credit, has said removing fuel subsidy has provided for more allocation to states. But do we need to continue this tradition of over dependence on the federal government when a lot of these states are blessed with mineral resources that they can turn to?
Well, let me first of all, even actually, I don't agree with that statement of our dear president that removal of subsidy have given more money. Is it more money in terms of what? Is it more paper money or because when you actually put exchange rate on that money that they say is more, the value may not be up to what we are getting before. That your quantity of paper is not money. Yeah. There's what we call in economy quantity theory of money, which is very, very fundamental to this explanation. And what is quantity theory of money? If an economy has 10 products, and let's say 10 naira, the total money in the economy is 10 naira, and 10 products, that means each of the products will be one naira. If the economy increase the level of money to be more than 10 naira and make it 20, each of the products will be two naira. If the economy increases to 40 naira and the product remain the same, then each product will be four naira. If we are increasing the monetary component, the monetary number of naira without productive activity, then that is not anything good for the system. That's why the quantity theory of money actually relates the volume of money supply with the velocity of circulation to transaction and price. So as much as possible, we don't need to concentrate on the paper money available, how much goods are available in the market. And that is where we have to actually put a searchlight on the productivity of the country and the factor that we allow the country to produce, so that the money that's been given can actually command better goods and services. If not, increasing money in the hands of the governors, where prices are rising more than double, and you increase the thing by 40%, you have only devalued the money they are getting.
Thanks for setting this record straight, Prof. But in moving forward, what does this also do for the promise that going into the year 2025, monies will be paid directly to councils other than state governors in that regard?
That's a very good policy. That's a very good policy. Those are some of the landmark policy of the government which I support, because over the years, this money gets to the state government, and I mean the state government now look at a very good chairman to give certain money, other one to do replaced by somebody, and then you are now doling out a local government money as if it's your own personal property. That is not what the constitution has said. And I'm happy for that judgment of the Supreme Court that said that the local government should go to local government money. And then we have to allow president for that as well. But how do we monitor the local government themselves? Because over the years, many of them have not been performing well. So, and that is another thing. So with this kind of money going, there should be monitoring and evaluation position to be able to check that the money that is going to them is actually used for the emancipation of the life of the citizens in that area.
Now, Prof, we have just a little less than a quarter of an hour to go. I'm hoping that you can also speak on the tax reform bills and its intended purpose, because it's also been one of the controversies ending the year 2024. Whilst some of the northern governors and northern senators have kicked against it, persons have talked about how much more needed these tax reform bills are at a time like this. What do you make of the tax reform bills? And speaking to its intent, what are your projections if it's actualized and passed into law by the National Assembly?
To me, I think we need to be very, very objective and transparent in analyzing that huge work which has been done by Oyedele and his team. Coincidentally, myself and Oyedele, we are in the Nigerian Economic Summit group together, and over the years as well, I've actually represent the president of ECOWAS Commission in a lot of missions in which I meet the Wauti men, that's the West African Union of Tax Institute, of which Oyedele has been a very active member, and even African Tax Forum, where he is equally a member, a significant member of the African Tax Forum for the entire continent. So I think that guy brought a lot of technical and competencies into this assignment. So that's why I'm calling on transparency and objectivity into what he has worked upon. So that because another thing is that as much as possible, I can see a lot of opportunity and productivity in the use of that tax initiative that they are recommending. And therefore, uh, we need to look at it. For those who that are looking at it from the other side, let them have an objective view very well and point out the sentences that may be corrected. Others say, no, no, we don't want it now. In so many countries, what that particular team put across is what is happening. Even because of my familiarity with ECOWAS, that's exactly what is happening in many ECOWAS countries. In other words, with respect to VAT and other things, that is what is happening everywhere. So I think that let there be objectivity and let there be clarity about it, so that the people that are saying no, 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 we don't want it. I remember in university days, certain things we say we don't want, we don't want. Later on, that's what we needed. When a child is born, particularly those of us when we were born in those days, you know the way they feed us. We have to fight with our mommy when they are closing one of our nose to be able to feed us. We don't want it, but that's how we are able to survive. That's the only way we can survive. So if this thing appears to be something that, well, it may have some effect that may not be very good, it is because the future effect and sustainability of the economy, as well as the state governance, will be affected positively. And that's the only way I look at it. I think from what I've seen in that report, is a very, very good report. And let the people bring out what do you think is wrong with it? Rather than to say, no, 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 we don't want it totally. Now, we will move forward if we are doing that. Why? Because you will not reward productivity and then you will only be sponsoring indolence at times. Right? Because people need to be productive. Let people be productive. Let us have a wonderful opportunity to be productive. So, but if there are certain things which some countries, some state governments are actually not happy about, let them be free enough and express themselves so that they can discuss it and bring it out so that we can move forward in this area.
Now you talked about the sharing as well. When we look at some of the northern objections to setting taxes on alcoholic beverages and sports betting, which also generates the much needed pool from which it would be shared, in amending that relationship, are you sure that we can find equity? Because some other states are grumbling over the fact that if their states allow for such taxes and the northern states do not, then in terms of equity, they shouldn't get both equal amounts.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let there be objectivity in that approach. Right? Let there be objectivity. Objectivity. That is to
But I
say,
want to understand you well because the National Assembly says
the
it's allowing for
objectivity
more
I'm
time to
talking
deliberate.
about is that if a particular state government is saying that I can generate revenue from this, right? And then it's generating revenue both to the state and then to the federal, right? Well, why should that state not actually benefit from it? Because that is because they allow that kind of productive activities. You can't say no. That's what I'm saying. We have to be objective, right? You have to be objective because if that particular state is not doing it at all, then the money will not be available for anybody. That's the meaning. But he's doing it and then, oh, he's doing it, but I will not do it. But when he's doing it, the money should come. For God's sake, what's the meaning of that? So that's exactly what I'm saying. Let people be objective. Let it be explained. I mean, if it's a player and everybody will know that this is fair enough, maybe that has not been broken down into pieces for better explanation.
Well, I think I agree with you on that. More so on the part of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who you commended, there's some recommendations with renaming the FIRS and how this would shape the harmonization of tax collection in Nigeria as a whole. We have just a few minutes in closing, so I'd like for you to speak to that effect and also with your projections for 2025 in that regard.
Well, let me say this one that the FIRS, no, they are changing the name to something else now, but they cannot be everything. They cannot be everything. Like the single window, which I recommended the other time, single window is to refer to trade issues, right? Okay. So at the touch of a button, somebody importing and exporting can get things done. You cannot put everything. I will situation in which, since FRS or whatever name is called is under Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance should actually take charge and actually look into what FRS is doing in that area and some other area. Also, with respect to projection in 2025, I want to remind Nigeria that African Continental Free Trade Area is a very big opportunity for Nigeria to penetrate into continental markets. African Continental Free Trade Area started in Nigeria in 1980 under Lagos Plan of Action, concretized in 1991 under Abuja Treaty. Everything around the continental economic integration is around Nigeria. Unfortunately, when this thing started and the agreement was signed in Kigali, we say we are not going to do yet. No, that was an error. But we have corrected the error. There's National Coordinating Office now that actually allow certain products to be shipped in July to other parts of Africa, and Nigeria is doing it now. Let us look at the opportunity available on the African Continental Free Trade Area. The opportunity is so huge. Also, let government pay attention to basic infrastructure. Just as I said earlier, if God cannot produce even anything except he said let there be light, unless we are wiser than God, we cannot be in darkness and then we say let production continue. So let effective infrastructure be put in place to be able to address all this issue of manufacturing running out of Nigeria. Thirdly, is the fact that in 2025, trade in services is contributing as much as 53.7% to the GDP. That trade in services, 5 sectors are priority on the African Continental Free Trade Area. I'm aware that there's a coalition of trade in services. Let government, let the after coordinating office, let the minister, and luckily we have a very minister that is very much aware of this. This that's Dr. Jumake. Let them actually put in place things that will allow this to work. Based on her past experience and qualification, she is somebody best positioned to be able to get this done in Nigeria. So let us make sure that Nigeria takes its pride of place with respect to trade and investment. I believe this country, which the whole world is looking at, which the entire continent is looking at to lead, we can still lead Africa. I listened to one WhatsApp sent to me yesterday. The man actually videoed many parts of Abuja. He said, come to Abuja, there's no city in Africa as good as Abuja. People should stop seeing Nigeria as bad. That Nigeria is a very good country. Nigeria has that things are working in Abuja, things are working in very much. But the picture we are having is that things are not okay. And I very much agree with him. I think with our president, new structure of looking at things and removing corruption because it is everywhere. That corruption must be dealt with seriously. I think we are going to enter 2025 and Nigeria will make it. We are going to lead Africa.
Well, thank you very much, Prof. With the optimism in ending your statements, we appreciate you for your objectivity to the conversation and we're wishing you a prosperous 2025 ahead.
Thank you.